Hey guys, it's Windy from Windys.Art. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint oranges using watercolor. So I'll be demonstrating two different versions. The first one is on the right side, which is painted using masking through. And second one is on the left side, which is done by watercolor and a white gel pen. I want to show you guys the masking through and non-masking through painting, so you can see the difference and find out which style you prefer. Let's start painting from the orange on the right side. As always, it's important to have an actual sketch. Because there are so many small bright reflections on the orange, I didn't draw them all out. Instead, I just sketched out the contour and later I'll be using masking through for that area. After outlining my sketching, I start putting a light wash on the orange. I usually keep the first wash very light so we can work on layers and details afterwards. Once the first layer is completely dry, I start applying masking through with my rolling pen. By the way, I will make another video explaining the different ways to apply masking through and the best tool I like to use next week, so stay tuned. While waiting for the masking through to dry, I start putting a darker layer on the edge and orange skin. Then continue putting another darker layer on the orange. Make sure the masking through is completely dry. You can simply check if it's becoming transparent. Usually when it's dried, it looks transparent. After that, I start putting a third layer of darker shades on the orange and the skin. So in this layer, you want to focus on painting out most of the darker shades. We will add more details and the darker shades after this. Once the paper is dry, it's time to remove all the masking through. I'm using the masking through pickup, but if you don't have it, you can simply rub off the masking through using your fingers. So make sure all the masking through is picked up before you continue painting. I like to just check it by simply touching the paper. You should feel it's nice and smooth. Then finally, we can start adding the darkest shadows. Usually the darkest shades are around the edge of the flesh in the orange. Finally, add some skin pores and strengthen the shadows on the skin. And that's it, the orange painting done by using masking through. Let's move on to orange on the left side. So with this orange, I marked out the reflections around the center. Because it's a bigger area, marking it out will help us later on when putting colors. After outlining, I start putting a light wash. To get a nice and more natural color on the orange skin, I'm using wet on wet technique for the base color. So I add darker colors while the paper is still wet, and the color will blend through each other naturally, as you can see. Continue adding darker shadows around the edge and on the reflection area while the paper is still wet. So notice that I try to avoid the reflection area around the center when putting the base color. I like to use the dry brush technique to leave natural blanks for the bright parts. Then start painting out the tip of the orange. You can simply strengthen the contour of the tip by adding shadows around it. When the paper is completely dry, it's time to add the skin pores. So in this step, you want to try to paint out all the pores on the skin, then later on we can focus on adding darker pores and details. Usually pores are closer to each other around the edge, and notice that they are in different sizes. After I'm done painting the pores, I start adding the highlights around the refraction area by using a white gel pen. I try to use a white watercolor pencil first, but the highlight doesn't really pop out, so I changed to my white gel pen and it works quite well. Then I put another darker shades on the orange skin around the edge and under the refraction area. Finally, I'd add some darker skin pores and also highlight the area around the tip. Here I use white watercolor pencil to highlight it, so it's not too bright. And here you go, 2 juicy oranges. So that's all for today's video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you do, please give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel and ring that bell so you won't miss out on my weekly art videos and tutorials. And remember, next week I'll be sharing my tips and tricks of how to apply masking through. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye!